The pregnancy test trembled in my hands, two pink lines mocking me as tears blurred my vision. I never thought those two words would feel like a death sentence until I whispered them to the wrong man. Hey everyone, thanks for joining me today for another story time. If you're enjoying this journey already, please hit that like button and subscribe to catch all my storytelling videos. Your support means everything, and trust me, you'll want to stay until the end of this one. My name is Olivia Chen, and 3 months ago, I made the kind of mistake they write cautionary tales about. I met him at my best friend's engagement party. James Calloway, tall, impossibly handsome, with eyes that seemed to see right through me. We were both slightly drunk on expensive champagne and the infectious joy that filled the room. What I didn't know then was that he was the cousin of my best friend's fiancée, visiting from out of town for the celebration. You don't seem like you're enjoying yourself, he said, appearing beside me on the balcony where I'd escaped for fresh air. Just taking a breather, I replied, trying not to stare at his perfect jawline. Large gatherings drain me. He laughed, a rich sound that made something flutter in my chest. Same here. I'm James. Olivia. One conversation led to another. One drink led to several more. And somehow, the night ended with us tangled in hotel sheets, making promises neither of us intended to keep. I'm not looking for anything serious, I'd whispered in the darkness. Perfect, he'd replied. I'm just passing through. The next morning, I slipped out before he woke up. No numbers exchanged, no last names discussed. Just a perfect, forbidden night that would remain a secret forever. Or so I thought. 3 months later, I sat in my bathroom, staring at those two pink lines, wondering how I would tell my traditional Chinese parents that their only daughter was pregnant with a stranger's baby. I had built a successful career as an architect at a prestigious firm in Boston. I had a 5-year plan that definitely didn't include single motherhood. I needed to find him. Not because I expected anything, I was prepared to handle this alone, but because he deserved to know. Finding James proved surprisingly easy. A quick social media search through my best friend's wedding planning photos revealed his full name, James Calloway, neurosurgeon, living in Chicago. I sent him a message asking to talk, and he agreed to a video call that evening. My heart hammered against my ribs as his face appeared on my screen. Even through pixels, he was devastatingly handsome, his dark hair slightly disheveled as if he'd been running his hands through it. Olivia, he said, his voice warm with recognition. This is unexpected. I took a deep breath. No point in small talk. I'm pregnant. The silence stretched between us, heavy and suffocating. Then his expression changed, eyes darkening as understanding dawned. Funny. He finally said, his voice hollow. So is my fiancée. The world tilted beneath me. Your fiancé? Yes. He looked away from the camera. We've been together for 5 years. The engagement is recent. My throat closed up. You never mentioned. You never asked. His words cut like glass. And you disappeared before morning. I felt sick, and not just from the pregnancy. I wouldn't have, if I'd known. It doesn't matter now, he interrupted. We both made a mistake. A mistake that's growing inside me, I said, anger rising through my shock. What are you going to do? His jaw tightened. What do you want me to do, Olivia? I have a fiancée who's 3 months pregnant. We're getting married in 6 weeks. The timing hit me like a punch to the gut. 3 months? So she was all ready. He nodded, shame evident in his expression. We had a fight. I flew out for the engagement party to clear my head. Then I met you, and... He trailed off. I found out about her pregnancy the day after I returned. I laughed bitterly. Congratulations. Twice over. Olivia. No, I cut him off. I didn't call to ruin your life. I just thought you should know. I'll handle this on my own. His expression softened slightly. Are you keeping it? The question hung between us. I hadn't even considered alternatives, but now they paraded through my mind. Still, something inside me had already decided. Yes, I said firmly. I am. He nodded slowly. I can provide financial support. It's the least I can do. I don't want your money, I snapped, though I knew that was pride talking. Single motherhood wouldn't be cheap. Think about it, he said. This isn't just about us anymore. After we disconnected, I sat in the dark of my apartment, hands resting on my still flat stomach. How had my life spiraled so completely out of control in just one night? The next morning, I called my best friend, Sophie. I need to tell you something, I said when she answered. And you're going to hate me. Liv, I could never hate you, she replied, concern evident in her voice. What's wrong? I told her everything, the night with James, the pregnancy, the fiancé. By the end, I was sobbing. Oh, Liv, she whispered. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I was ashamed, I admitted. I slept with your future cousin-in-law at your engagement party. Who does that? Someone human, she said gently. Have you told your parents yet? I groaned. God, no. They'll disown me. They won't, Sophie assured me, though we both knew my parents' traditional values would make this conversation excruciating. Do you want me to come with you when you tell them? Would you? I asked, relief washing over me. Of course. That's what best friends are for. 2 days later, Sophie sat beside me in my parents' immaculate living room as I shattered their perfect image of their daughter. Pregnant? My mother repeated, her accent thickening with distress. But there is no husband. My father sat silently, his expression unreadable. I know this isn't what you wanted for me, I said, fighting back tears. But I'm going to have this baby, and I'm going to be a good mother. Who is father? My mother demanded. He must take responsibility. I exchanged glances with Sophie. It's complicated. He's not in the picture. Not in picture? My mother's voice rose. You bring shame to family. Mrs. Chen, Sophie interjected gently. Olivia is still the same daughter you raised. She's successful, kind, and responsible. She made a mistake, but she's facing it with courage. My father finally spoke, his voice quiet but firm. You will move home. We will help with baby. I blinked in surprise. Dad, I can't. Not suggestion, he said. Family stays together in difficult times. Tears spilled down my cheeks as I realized he wasn't disowning me, he was offering support in the only way he knew how. Thank you, I whispered. But I need to do this on my own. I have my apartment, my job. I'll figure it out. My mother wiped her eyes. So stubborn. Like your father. For the first time that day, a small smile tugged at my lips. I wonder where I got that from. The following weeks passed in a blur of morning sickness, prenatal appointments, and anxiety. I threw myself into work, taking on extra projects to save money for maternity leave. My boss, a stern woman named Victoria, noticed my exhaustion. You're burning out, Olivia, she said during our weekly check-in. Is everything all right? I hesitated. I hadn't told anyone at work yet, but soon my condition would be impossible to hide. I'm pregnant, I admitted. Victoria's eyebrows shot up. I see. And the father? Not involved. She nodded, processing this information. Well, congratulations. We'll need to discuss your maternity leave plans and project transitions. Her practical response was a relief. No judgment, just logistics. Thank you, I said. I'm committed to completing the Riverside project before I leave. I know you are, she replied. But take care of yourself, too. That's an order. As I left her office, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Asterisk, have you thought about my offer? James asterisk. I stared at the message, conflicting emotions swirling inside me. Part of me wanted to tell him to go to hell. Another part recognized that his support would make a significant difference for my child. I have a doctor's appointment next week, I replied after careful consideration. If you're serious about being involved, you can start there. His response came quickly, asterisk, send me the details. I'll be there, asterisk. I didn't actually expect him to show up. Chicago was a 2-hour flight from Boston. But when I arrived at the clinic the following Tuesday, he was waiting in the lobby, looking both out of place and impossibly handsome in a tailored suit. You came, I said, unable to hide my surprise. I said I would. He stood, eyes dropping to my midsection where a small bump was just beginning to show. How are you feeling? Tired. Nauseous. Terrified, I answered honestly. You? A ghost of a smile crossed his face. About the same, actually. The appointment was awkward but informative. The doctor performed an ultrasound, and for the first time, I saw my baby, a tiny bean-shaped figure with a rapidly flickering heartbeat. Everything looks healthy, the doctor said, smiling. You're doing great, Mom. Mom. The word hit me like a thunderbolt. This was real. I was going to be someone's mother. James was quiet as we left the clinic, his expression thoughtful. Thank you for coming, I said as we stood on the sidewalk, unsure what else to say. I want to be involved, he said suddenly. Not just financially. I want to know my child. I studied his face, looking for signs of insincerity. What about your fiancée? Your other baby? He ran a hand through his hair. I told her. My heart skipped. About us? About everything, he confirmed. It was difficult. But I couldn't start a marriage with a lie this big between us. And we're working through it, he said carefully. She's understandably hurt and angry. But she also understands that I intend to be a father to both children. I tried to imagine sharing my child with this man and his future wife. The thought made my stomach churn. I need time to think about this, I said finally. This isn't just about you and me anymore. There's your fiancé, your other baby, it's complicated. I know, he agreed. But I'm asking you to try. For our child's sake. As I watched him walk away, I wondered if I was strong enough for the road ahead. The months that followed were a crash course in preparing for single motherhood while navigating an impossible co-parenting situation. James flew to Boston for every major appointment. We exchanged texts about baby names and nursery colors. Slowly, reluctantly, I began to accept his presence in my life. Then came the call that changed everything. Olivia, James's voice was tight with emotion. Elise lost the baby. My hand flew to my mouth. James, I'm so sorry. The wedding's been postponed, he continued. We're both devastated. Of course, I said, feeling a complicated mix of sympathy and guilt. Is there anything I can do? No, he sighed. I just thought you should know. After we hung up, I sat on my couch, hands cradling my growing belly, feeling the occasional flutter of movement beneath my palms. The joy of these moments now felt tainted by the knowledge of James and Elise's loss. 2 weeks later, James called again. Elise wants to meet you, he said without preamble. What? I nearly dropped my phone. Why would she want that? Because you're carrying her fiancé's child, he replied. And she's trying to come to terms with what that means for our future. James, I don't think. Please, Olivia, he interrupted. She's hurting, but she's trying. That's more than most people would do in her position. I closed my eyes, imagining how I would feel in Elisa's shoes. Okay, I agreed reluctantly. When? This weekend? I can fly us both to Boston. And that's how I found myself sitting across from my one-night stand and his fiancée in a quiet corner of a hotel restaurant, feeling like I might throw up from nerves rather than morning sickness. Elise was beautiful, tall and elegant with honey blonde hair and intelligent green eyes. She studied me with an unreadable expression. "Thank you for agreeing to meet," she said, her voice surprisingly warm. "I know this is awkward for all of us." I nodded, unsure what to say. "I want to be clear about something," she continued. "I'm angry with James, not with you. You didn't know about me." "I didn't," I confirmed. "If I had." She held up a hand. "It doesn't matter now. What matters is that there's a child coming who deserves the best possible life." James reached over and squeezed her hand, love evident in his eyes. Despite everything, they were still a unit. "What are you suggesting?" I asked cautiously. "Co-parenting," she said simply. "James and I are staying together. We're working through this. And when we're ready, we'll try again for our own family. But in the meantime, his child with you will be part of our lives." "You'd accept my baby?" I asked, incredulous. "Not just accept," she corrected. "Welcome. Love. It won't be easy, and I can't promise I won't have difficult days. But I'm willing to try if you are." I looked between them, these two strangers who were offering an unconventional but potentially beautiful solution. "I need to think about it," I said finally. "This affects my child's entire future." "Of course," James nodded. "Take all the time you need." As they walked me to my car, Elise suddenly asked, "Do you know if it's a boy or girl yet?" "A girl," I replied, smiling despite myself. "I found out last week." Something softened in Elisa's expression. "A little girl," she repeated. "What will you name her?" "I'm thinking May," I said. "It means beautiful in Chinese." It was my grandmother's name. May, Elise tested the name. "It's perfect." The decision to accept James and Elisa's co-parenting proposal wasn't easy. I spent weeks weighing the pros and cons, talking it through with Sophie and even my parents, who had gradually come around to supporting my pregnancy. "They seem sincere," Sophie observed after meeting them. "And having more people to love your daughter isn't a bad thing." My mother was more cautious. "Men change mind. What if he leaves Fiancée and wants you instead?" More complicated. But in the end, it was a conversation with my father that helped me decide. "In China," he said as we sat in his garden, "we have saying, it takes a village to raise a child. Your village looked different than what we expected. But village is village." And so, as my due date approached, we worked out an arrangement. James and Elise would remain in Chicago, but they would visit regularly. James would pay child support and contribute to a college fund. When May was older, she could spend summers and holidays in Chicago if she wanted. It wasn't perfect, but it was workable. It was a start. Then, 2 weeks before my due date, everything changed again. I was working late at the office, trying to finish documentation for a project before my maternity leave, when sharp pain lanced through my abdomen. At first, I dismissed it as Braxton Hicks contractions, but when my water broke all over my office chair, I knew May had other plans. "Victoria." I called out, grateful my boss was also working late. "I need to go to the hospital. Now." Victoria took one look at me and grabbed her car keys. "Let's go." In the car, between contractions, I called James. "She's coming," I gasped as another wave of pain hit. "Early." "I'm on my way," he said immediately. "Hold on, Olivia. I'll be there as soon as I can." The next 12 hours were a blur of pain, exhaustion, and determination. Sophie arrived first, holding my hand and coaching me through contractions. My parents came next, my mother taking charge in a way that made even the experienced nurses step back. "Breathe, Olivia," she instructed, her accent thickening with emotion. "You strong like mountain." James and Elise arrived just as the doctor announced I was fully dilated. To my surprise, it was Elise who asked, "Can we stay? Both of us?" I nodded, too focused on the task ahead to argue. And so my daughter entered the world surrounded by an unlikely family, her mother, her father's fiancé, her grandparents, and her mother's best friend. "She's perfect," James whispered, tears streaming down his face as he held May for the first time. Elise stood beside him, her expression a complex mixture of joy and sadness. When it was her turn to hold the baby, she looked at me with unexpected gratitude. "Thank you," she said softly, "for sharing her with us." In that moment, exhausted and emotional, I realized we might actually make this work. The first year of May's life was a crash course in our new normal. James and Elise visited monthly, staying in a hotel nearby. We established a routine of video calls so May would recognize them even between visits. My parents doted on their granddaughter, my mother practically moving in for the first 3 months to help. When May was 6 months old, James and Elise finally rescheduled their wedding. To my shock, I received an invitation. "We want you there," Elise explained during a video call. "Your family now, in a strange way." I declined gently, explaining that it would be too confusing for everyone involved. But I sent a gift and helped May make a card with her tiny handprints. 2 months after their wedding, Elise called with news of her own. "I'm pregnant," she said, her voice a mixture of joy and caution. "We wanted you to know first." "Congratulations," I replied sincerely. "May will have a sibling." "Half-sibling," she corrected, then paused. "Though we hope they'll just feel like siblings, period." When their son was born, a healthy boy they named Ethan, I sent flowers and a care package of all the newborn essentials that had saved my sanity. Elise sent back a photo of Ethan wearing the onesie I'd included, with a note, "Can't wait for these two to meet." That meeting happened when May was 18 months old and Ethan was 3 months. We arranged to meet at a park halfway between Boston and Chicago. Watching May toddle over to investigate the baby in James's arms, I felt a strange peace settle over me. "Baby?" May asked, pointing at Ethan. "Yes, sweetheart," I answered. "That's your brother." She considered this information seriously, then declared, "My baby," before planting a sloppy kiss on Ethan's head. The adults exchanged glances, a silent acknowledgement passing between us. This was working. Somehow, against all odds, we were creating something beautiful from our complicated beginning. As May grew, so did our unconventional family. When she was 3, I accepted a job offer in Chicago, not because James and Elise were there, but because it was a tremendous career opportunity. Still, the proximity made our co-parenting arrangement easier. By the time May started kindergarten, she had 2 homes where she was loved unconditionally. She spent weekdays with me and alternate weekends with James, Elise, and Ethan, who had been joined by a little sister named Lily. "Mommy," May asked one night as I tucked her into bed, "why don't you live with Daddy and Elise like Ethan and Lily do?" I had prepared for this question, but it still made my heart ache. "Well, sweetie, sometimes grown-ups love each other in different ways. Daddy and Elise love each other in a way that means they live together. Daddy and I love each other as friends, and we both love you more than anything." She considered this. "But don't you get lonely?" The question caught me off guard. I had dated occasionally over the years, but nothing serious had developed. Between my career and motherhood, romance had taken a back seat. "I have you," I said, kissing her forehead. "And Grandma and Grandpa, and Auntie Sophie. I'm not lonely." But that night, after May was asleep, I wondered if she was right. Had I been using my daughter and my career as shields against potential heartbreak? The next weekend, when I dropped May off at James and Elise's house, Elise invited me in for coffee, something that had become a regular occurrence. "There's someone I want you to meet," she said casually. "My brother Michael is in town. He's an architect too." I raised an eyebrow. "Are you trying to set me up?" She laughed. "Maybe a little. You've been alone too long, Olivia. And Michael's a good guy." "I don't know. Just dinner," she pressed. "As friends. If there's no spark, no harm done." Against my better judgment, I agreed. And to my surprise, Michael was wonderful, intelligent, kind, and genuinely interested in my work. He understood the complexities of my relationship with his sister and brother-in-law without judgment. "It's unusual," he acknowledged over dessert. "But also kind of beautiful. You've all put May first." After that first dinner, we began seeing each other regularly. Michael lived in New York but traveled to Chicago frequently for work. Our relationship developed slowly, built on mutual respect and understanding. 6 months in, he asked if he could meet May. "Are you sure?" I asked. "Once she's attached to you, there's no going back." He took my hand. "I'm sure about you, Olivia. And that means I want to know every part of your life, especially the most important part." May and Michael hit it off immediately. He brought her a set of child-friendly architecture tools and spent hours helping her design a dream house for her dolls. "I like him, Mommy," she declared after he left. "He makes you smile the big smile." A year later, Michael proposed, not just to me, but to May as well, getting down on one knee with 2 rings, an engagement ring for me and a small promise ring for her. "I'm not trying to replace your dad," he told May seriously. "But I would be honored to be your stepdad, if you'll have me." May looked at me, then back at Michael. "Does this mean you'll live with us and not be in New York anymore?" He nodded. "That's the plan." She considered this, then held out her hand solemnly. "Okay. But you have to help me with my Lego buildings. You're better at it than Mommy." And just like that, our family expanded again. James and Elise were among the first people we told about our engagement. To my surprise, they insisted on hosting an engagement party for us. "We've come a long way from that video call 5 years ago," James remarked as we stood in their backyard, watching May play with Ethan and Lily. "We have," I agreed. "I never imagined we'd end up here." "Regrets?" he asked quietly. I thought about it honestly. "No," I said finally. "It hasn't been easy, but look what we created." I nodded toward the children. "Not just May, but this family. It's unconventional, but it works." "It does," he agreed. "And for what it's worth, I think Michael is a good man." "May adores him." "She does," I smiled. "Though she's made it very clear that he's not replacing you." James laughed. "She told me the same thing about you when Elise and I got married." "Elise is nice, but she's not my mommy." As our wedding day approached, we faced an unexpected dilemma: who would walk May down the aisle as our flower girl? "I want both Daddy and Grandpa," she declared firmly. And so, on a beautiful spring day, my daughter preceded me down the aisle, holding hands with both her father and her grandfather, a living symbol of our blended family. Michael's vows included promises not just to me, but to May as well. "I vow to love your mother with all my heart, to respect the special relationship you have with your father, and to be the best stepdad I can be, which includes unlimited Lego assistance and pancakes on Sundays." May beamed up at him, then spontaneously hugged his legs, causing laughter to ripple through the gathering. At the reception, I found myself sitting beside Elise, watching James dance with May standing on his shoes. "Did you ever imagine this?" she asked, gesturing around at our intertwined families celebrating together. "Never," I admitted. When I saw those 2 pink lines on the pregnancy test, I thought my life was over. Instead, it was just beginning in a way I couldn't have predicted. She squeezed my hand. I hated you at first, you know. When James told me about you, about the baby. I wanted to blame you for everything. I would have too, I acknowledged. But then I realized something, she continued. Life rarely goes according to plan. It's what you do with the unexpected turns that defines you. I looked around at our unconventional family, my new husband chatting with my parents, James teaching May and Ethan a silly dance move, Sophie helping Lily with her cake, and felt overwhelming gratitude. We did okay with our unexpected turn, didn't we? I said. Elise smiled. We did better than okay. We broke the mold. 10 years later. Mom. Dad's here. May called from downstairs. I looked up from my laptop where I'd been reviewing plans for a new sustainable housing project. Coming. At 15, May had blossomed into a confident young woman with her father's eyes and my determination. She split her time between our house and James and Elise's, though as she got older, she had more say in the schedule. I found James waiting in the foyer, Ethan and Lily beside him. At 12 and 10, they had grown into thoughtful, kind children who viewed May as their big sister, full stop. Ready for the camping trip? James asked May, who was double-checking her backpack. Born ready, she replied with a grin. Is Michael still coming? Wouldn't miss it, my husband said, coming down the stairs with our 7-year-old son, Oliver. The annual father-daughter sibling stepdad camping extravaganza is the highlight of my year. This tradition had started 3 years ago, a weekend where James, Michael, and all 4 children went camping while Elise and I enjoyed a mom's weekend of spa treatments and uninterrupted sleep. Where's Mom? Lily asked, looking around for Elise. Finishing up a patient, James explained. Elise had returned to her career as a pediatrician after Lily started school. She'll meet us at the campsite tomorrow. As they loaded into cars, May and Ethan riding with James, Oliver and Lily with Michael, I marveled at how seamlessly our lives had interwoven. Later that evening, Elise arrived at my house with takeout and wine. To peace and quiet, she toasted, clinking her glass against mine. And to indoor plumbing, I added, making her laugh. We settled on the couch, the comfortable silence of old friends enveloping us. May told me she's applying for that architecture summer program, Elise mentioned. Following in your footsteps. I smiled proudly. She's got a natural eye for design. Though she's also interested in medicine, so watch out, she might follow in your footsteps too. Either way, she'll be amazing, Elise said confidently. We did good with that one. We did good with all of them, I corrected. They're growing up seeing that family isn't just about blood or traditional structures. It's about love and respect and putting children first. Elise nodded thoughtfully. Remember when we thought this would be impossible? That first awkward meeting at the hotel restaurant? God, I was so nervous, I laughed. I thought you might throw your water in my face. I considered it, she admitted with a grin. For about 2 seconds. We fell silent again, each lost in memories of the journey that had brought us here. You know, Elise said finally, when James first told me about you, about the pregnancy, I thought it was the worst thing that could happen to us. Now I can't imagine our family without you in it. Same, I agreed softly. Life has a funny way of giving you exactly what you need, even when it looks like everything is falling apart. When the campers returned Sunday evening, sunburned and smelling of smoke but happy, May pulled me aside. Mom, can I talk to you about something? We went up to her room, where she flopped onto her bed with teenage dramatic flair. What's up, sweetheart? I asked, sitting beside her. I've been thinking a lot about our family, she said. About how it started. My heart skipped. We had always been honest with May about her origins, in age-appropriate ways. She knew that James and I had a brief relationship before he married Elise, but we had spared her the more complicated details. What about it? I asked carefully. Some kids at school were talking about their broken homes and custody battles and how much they hate their parents' new partners. She sat up, looking at me intently. And I realized how lucky I am. I have 2 homes, but neither one is broken. I have 4 parents who actually like each other. Do you know how rare that is? I smiled, relieved. It is pretty special. It's more than special, she insisted. It's like, you all decided to be grown-ups instead of enemies. You put me first. We did, I agreed. From the moment we knew you were coming, that was the one thing we all agreed on: you deserved the best family we could give you, even if it wasn't traditional. She was quiet for a moment, then asked, was it hard? In the beginning? I considered sugarcoating it, then decided on honesty. Yes. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done. There were days I was angry, days I was scared, days I wondered if we were making a huge mistake. What changed? You did, I said simply. The first time your dad and Elise held you in the hospital, something shifted. You weren't an abstract concept anymore, you were a real person who needed all of us. And gradually, we figured out how to be a family on our own terms. She nodded thoughtfully. I want to write about it for my college application essay. About how families can look different but still work. Would that be okay? I felt a surge of pride at her maturity. I think that would be more than okay. It's an important story to tell. She hugged me suddenly, fiercely. Thanks, Mom. For everything. As I held my daughter, I thought about that terrifying moment 15 years ago when I'd stared at a positive pregnancy test, certain my life was ruined. I couldn't have imagined then the beautiful, complicated, wonderful family that would grow from that moment of crisis. Thank you, I whispered into her hair. For making me a mother. For bringing all these people into my life. For being exactly who you are. So there you have it. The story of how a mistake turned into a miracle, how strangers became family, and how love, in all its forms, found a way to flourish in unexpected soil. Life rarely gives us what we expect. Sometimes it gives us what we need instead, if we're brave enough to accept it. If you enjoyed this story, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more stories about family, love, and the beautiful mess that is life. Remember, the most powerful families aren't always the ones that look traditional, they're the ones built on love, respect, and putting children first. Until next time, remember that your story isn't over when things go wrong, sometimes, that's exactly when it begins.